excited. I am truly appreciative of every single person in this room. This night is not about me. It's about, generosity. It's about just compassion. It's about being selfless. It's about just, caring about someone else and not you. When my little brother passed away almost 3 years now, it shook the rest of my family. The little guy who was the best man in my wedding, right? The little guy that I cleaned his diapers. And, the hurt, the pain that he gave his life to save someone else. So as I thought about it, and, while we were grieving, is how can we honor his legacy of serving other people? How can we continue that? How can we not let his death be in vain? And that's the reason why we started the Unity J. McGill Foundation. We're going to award between $500 to $1,000 to anyone serving the community. So the Unity J. McGill Education Fund is going to send as many people as possible to get educated. Education is the way. Education is the way out of poverty. I am truly excited. I am truly appreciative of every single person in this room. This night is not about me. It's about, generosity. It's about just compassion. It's about being selfless. It's about just, caring about someone else and not you. When my little brother passed away almost 3 years now, it shook the rest of my family. The little guy who was the best man in my wedding, right? The little guy that I cleaned his diapers. And, the hurt, the pain that he gave his life to save someone else. So as I thought about it, and, while we were grieving, is how can we honor his legacy of serving other people? How can we continue that? How can we not let his death be in vain? And that's the reason why we started the Unity J. McGill Foundation. We're going to award between $500 to $1,000 to anyone serving the community. So the Unity J. McGill Education Fund is going to send as many people as possible to get educated. Education is the way. December 23rd, 1989, I was 6 years old. It's the civil war that happened in Liberia. On that day, I lost my childhood. I became a man right away. For 7 years, I was in the streets of Liberia selling kerosene. That was my life. Selling snails on my head. Walked from Liberia to the Ivory Coast. There are so many of you in this room, that's your story. Some of you had it way worse than I did. But I made it to America and I thought that was it. It was over with. But when you come here, nobody tell you that the battle is just starting. How many of you had to walk in a room, what they laugh at your accent, but you knew it was bigger than you? How many of you had to do jobs that you never imagined that you would do, but you did it anyway? Raise your hand. Because you knew that where you came from, this was just the beginning. These are all of our stories as Liberians in some shape or form. But when I look in this room, I see doctors, I see lawyers, I see nurses, I see parents who are raising successful kids. If that doesn't make you proud, I don't know what else would. So go ahead and give your hands a clap for what you've overcome in 50 years. So I say to you, I've been thinking about this. How can we start as Liberians to move forward? And I break it down in a simple framework called TIME, T-I-N-E. I'm talking about truth, intention, mindfulness, and last but not least, we have to have empathy. I want to build a Liberia that our children can run towards, not run away from. And it's just something simple. Think about it. Maybe there's about 200 people in this room. $100 a month for a year, over $200,000. You multiply that by 5, that is a school. That is a library. That is so many different avenues that we can contribute to for our kids. Think about my time framework: truth, intentionality, mindfulness, and empathy. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clay. Give him a hand, y'all.
December 23rd, 1989, I was 6 years old. It's the civil war that happened in Liberia. On that day, I lost my childhood. I became a man right away. For 7 years, I was in the streets of Liberia selling kerosene. That was my life. Selling snails on my head. Walked from Liberia to the Ivory Coast. There are so many of you in this room, that's your story. Some of you had it way worse than I did. But I made it to America and I thought that was it. It was over with. But when you come here, nobody tell you that the battle is just starting. How many of you had to walk in a room, what they laugh at your accent, but you knew it was bigger than you? How many of you had to do jobs that you never imagined that you would do, but you did it anyway? Raise your hand. Because you knew that where you came from, this was just the beginning. These are all of our stories as Liberians in some shape or form. But when I look in this room, I see doctors, I see lawyers, I see nurses, I see parents who are raising successful kids. And give your hands a clap for what you've overcome in 50 years. So I say to you, I've been thinking about this. How can we start as Liberians to move forward? And I break it down in a simple framework called TIME, T-I-N-E. I'm talking about truth, intention, mindfulness, and last but not least, we have to have empathy. I want that the battle is just starting. How many of you had to walk in a room, what they laugh at your accent, but you knew it was bigger than you? How many of you had to do jobs that you never imagined that you would do, but you did it anyway? Raise your hand. Because you knew that where you came from, this was just the beginning. These are all of our stories as Liberians in some shape or form. But when I look in this room, I see doctors, I see lawyers, I see nurses, I see parents who are raising successful kids. If that doesn't make you proud, I don't know what else would. So go ahead and give your hands a clap for what you've overcome in 50 years. So I say to you, I've been thinking about this. How can we start as Liberians to move forward? And I break it down in a simple framework called TIME, T-I-N-E. I'm talking about truth, intention, mindfulness, and last but not least, we have to have empathy. I want to build a Liberia that our children can run towards, not run away from. And it's just something simple. Think about it. Maybe there's about 200 people in this room. $100 a month for a year, over $200,000. You multiply that by 5, that is a school, that is a library. That is so many different avenues that we can contribute to for our kids. Think about my time framework: truth, intentionality, mindfulness, and empathy. I thank you.
Losing a job to provide for your family, it happens. And just if I can help someone who are in those situations and really understand, like, it's just a moment in time that you have to just focus on just getting through that moment, that on the other side of that, just beauty. If I can do that, that's why I wrote this book. My name is Dr. Alvin Glade. I am a father, proud father. I am an author and a marketing strategist. And today we're about to talk about my memoir, Liberian Boy, Triumph over War Shadows, we really talk about my life as a former Liberian refugee living in a refugee camp for 7 years. Coming to America as a refugee was a moment of happiness. Imagine I spent all these years in a refugee camp in Ivory Coast, and America was like the promised land, so to speak. When you come here, it's like you dream about it, right? Living in a refugee camp and don't have anything, we're living off of aid from the United Nations. And coming here was a sense of we've made it. But once you get here and reality set in America, is the struggle is here also. Losing people is universal. Going through divorce, it happens. Losing a job to provide for your family, it happens. And just if I can help someone who are in those situations and really understand, like, it's just a moment in time that you have to just focus on just getting through that moment, that on the other side of that, just beauty. If I can do that, that's why I wrote this book. My name is Dr. Alvin Glade. I am a father, proud father. I am an author and a marketing strategist. And today we're about to talk about my memoir, Liberian Boy, Triumph over War Shadows. We really talk about my life as a former Liberian refugee living in a refugee camp for 7 years. Coming to America as a refugee was a moment of happiness. Imagine I spent all these years in a refugee camp in Ivory Coast, and America was like the promised land, so to speak. When you come here, it's like you dream about it, right? Living in a refugee camp and don't have anything, we're living off of aid from the United Nations. And coming here was a sense of we've made it. But once you get here and reality set in America, is the struggle is here also.
Through a civil war, then turned around and built a career only most people can only dream of. Was there any moment in your journey where you felt like it might fall apart?
Oh man, I have so many, and I talk about it in my book. When I came to America, I felt like, football, soccer was kind of like my path. For the first time, I wasn't worried about dying. It was all about getting, education, because education was the path. And I use football, American people call it soccer, as the pathway to do that. So I went to college, full scholarship, got a degree in finance. But then I thought that was enough, but I graduated, and for 3 years, I couldn't get a job.
Wow.
So here I was, finance degree from Georgia State University, right? One of the top 50 schools in the U.S. I was valet parking cars in the street of Atlanta. Some of my classmates that I went to school with used to come to the club and the restaurant and throw their keys at me. So imagine the folks that you go to school with, right? And, they go off and have these big jobs, and there you are parking cars. I need a high school education for that, to park cars. But that was just one thing I had to get over. So for the first time, it felt like a personal rejection.
So you lived through a civil war, then turned around and built a career only most people can only dream of. Was there any moment in your journey where you felt like it might fall apart?
Oh man, I have so many, and I talk about it in my book. When I came to America, I felt like, football, soccer was kind of like my path. For the first time, I wasn't worried about dying. It was all about getting, education, because education was the path. And I use football, American people call it soccer, as the pathway to do that. So I went to college, full scholarship, got a degree in finance. But then I thought that was enough, but I graduated, and for 3 years, I couldn't get a job.
Wow.
So here I was, finance degree from Georgia State University, right? One of the top 50 schools in the U.S. I was valet parking cars in the street of Atlanta. Some of my classmates that I went to school with used to come to the club and the restaurant and throw their keys at me. So imagine the folks that you go to school with, right? And, they go off and have these big jobs, and there you are parking cars. I need a high school education for that, to park cars. But that was just one thing I had to get over. So for the first time, it felt like a personal rejection.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clay. Give him a hand, y'all.
December 23rd, 1989, I was 6 years old. It's the civil war that happened in Liberia. On that day, I lost my childhood. I became a man right away. For 7 years, I was in the streets of Liberia selling kerosene. That was my life. Selling snails on my head. Walked from Liberia to the Ivory Coast. There are so many of you in this room, that's your story. Some of you had it way worse than I did. But I made it to America and I thought that was it. It was over with. But when you come here, nobody tell you that the battle is just starting. How many of you had to walk in a room, what they laugh at your accent, but you knew it was bigger than you? How many of you had to do jobs that you never imagined that you would do, but you did it anyway? Raise your hand. Because you knew that where you came from, this was just the beginning. These are all of our stories as Liberians in some shape or form. But when I look in this room, I see doctors, I see lawyers, I see nurses, I see parents who are raising successful kids. If that doesn't make you proud, I don't know what else would. So go ahead and give your hands a clap for what you've overcome in 50 years. So I say to you, I've been thinking about this. How can we start as Liberians to move forward? And I break it down in a simple framework called TIME, T-I-N-E. I'm talking about truth, intention, mindfulness, and last but not least, we have to have empathy. I want to build a Liberia that our children can run towards, not run away from. And it's just something simple. Think about it. Maybe there's about 200 people in this room. $100 a month for a year, over $200,000. You multiply that by 5. That is a school. That is a library. That is so many different avenues that we can contribute to for our kids. Think about my time framework: truth, intentionality, mindfulness, and empathy. I thank you.
All right, guys. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. This is BKS TV. As you all know, we come on here every evening to discuss things that pertain to sports, entertainment, politics, education, and everything. But tonight, though, this evening show is going to be a little different. I have a brother who happens to have the same name that I do have. So we'll be having a wonderful show here tonight. And I apologize that my computer. Oh my God, the computer. So my apologies there. As you can see, I had a little bit of technical difficulties there. But we'll be hosting one of our brothers tonight, Dr. Glay. I won't be introducing the man. The man, he would do his own introduction here. But tonight's show is going to be interesting. It's really good, educational, motivational. And I ask all of you to share the link, share the show, and share with your friends and everyone else that you know. Invite people to come on. Let's have this show. This show, the reason why I'm really into this tonight is more, we're switching topic here. We are switching lane. Usually we come on here, we talk politics, we talk all this stuff, but tonight it's a little different. We'll be hearing from our brother, who's an author. Again, I don't want to venture into introducing him. I want to let him do it. But please do that. Our show currently is being a relay in Liberia. We have 2 local radio stations that relay our show, Voice of Tapeta and obviously BKS Radio in Nimba County. So relax and let's enjoy this show. Let's have fun. Let's learn. Again, please invite others who are watching, and as we go through, you would get to know why I keep saying that this show is interesting. It's going to be a really good one. A great Doc. Welcome to the show. Before we start the show, I want to share something. I want to share this, and I want you to guess and see and tell me where this where this picture was taken.
I want to say 2023 in Atlanta when you came.
No, it wasn't 2023. It was 2021 in Atlanta.
Wow.
I came there to speak to my brother, and then you came over.
We look young.
Yeah, we look young, man.
I'm fit.
We were not in the gym at that time. No GB, no all that stuff. But now, man, it's crazy. But welcome to the platform, my dear brother. I have saved this day. I have saved this day. You know a lot about BKS. You have spoken at BKS events. You have contributed tremendously to BKS scholarship, the institution as a whole. I mean, you have been one of those supporters that don't talk. You've been behind the scene. But we started this online platform. We have our local radio station in Nimba, as you know. But we started this, and I have been saving this for the last, to bring you on here to introduce you to our people and get to talk to our people. So that's why we're on here. Usually we have a lot of panelists, but I decided to just have this as you and I, and then maybe in the future when we come on, people would have known you by then, and then we can bring other panelists on to have the discussion. So it's more of an introductory interview, so to speak, and that's why we are here. So welcome to your own platform, brother.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on this platform. It's an honor to follow your work and seeing the tremendous impact that you're having on the people back home. It warms my heart. We both come from a humble beginning in Ghana. Playing Maracana, eating, at Checker, eating burger wheat, right? So it's an honor to share this stage with you and continue to invite me into your endeavors, and I don't take this lightly. So I appreciate the honor and the invitation.
And not many people do that. With all the busy schedule, you are taking time, to always be there. And I have another picture, but I decided to not post that one.
No, go for it.
It's the one I was wearing the fuller yellow gown. That was back in 2017, 17. Yeah, when you came at that time, and we've come a long way aside from our connections. And
that was the first, I believe, the first or second BKS gala that you had in Nobleville.
Yeah, that was it. You attended that, and you got there. There were a lot of folks from Danade, and you were part of it, and that's where we really started going. But it's great. It's great to have you on here. Wonderful. People are listening to you. This is, I would say, it's your first time on any major Liberian platform that connects. I know you've been on bigger platform, huge platform, but this is a local one. So you're talking to the people, who are, in Nimba, Monroeville, Bon County, and all the folks. We got a lot of young followers as well, and you're talking to them. So I know you, people know you, but I want you to introduce yourself, talk to the people, and let them know who you are, and then we'll go down that path. It's more of a conversation tonight, and then people want to know who you are.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So, my name is Alvin Yan Glay. Yan because my family is from Nima County. My mother is from Tapeta. In my country, my father is from, Yopia, which is right outside of Bon County.
What did it mean?
Yopia. Right on the Bon County side. That's why I spent a lot of time growing up. I was born in Bangat, so that's why I spent a lot of time growing up in
in Liberia until I was 7 years old, and then the war broke out, and then we spent some time in Zowinta, which is the Bon County side of right outside of Banga. I spent about 3 years between Zowinta and Yopia and Manla, which is closer to the capital side of area. Yeah. And then when the war was getting a little tougher, that's when we walked from Manla to Danane, and that's why I spent from I believe it was 1993 from there until 1997.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna keep talking.
Yeah, so until then, that's when we moved to America. We came here. Since I've been in America, I'm so grateful for the learning that I had, during my refugee days, because we all play football, and football is what really gave me the opportunity to go to school here. I went to Georgia State University, and I play soccer there, or football is play football there on a scholarship, Division I. I was really good. My first love was to go play professional.
But man, hold on, I'll hold you there for a second. When we're in Danane, you used to be in the goal.
Right.
Duja used you. You used to be a really good goalkeeper, actually a great one of the top goalkeepers over there. So when it changed, when you got to Atlanta, that's when it changed, or Minnesota, wherever you got.
No, it changed when I got to Atlanta. So when you're in the refugee camp, everybody can play football with their feet.
Yeah,
right?
You gotta be,
and I was really good at it. So when I came to America, I try out for the youth team here, and I try out both as a goalkeeper and a field player, and I was very good at both. So what they would end up doing is, for my team, in the first half, I was a starting goalkeeper.
Okay.
And then in the second half, I go play number 9. But then it so happened the club that I was at, to this day, actually, no one has beaten my scoring record. I ended up scoring a lot of goals, so they end up putting me, up front. So I got recruited to go play in college, as a striker, even in high school. So I love the goal, but I fell in love with scoring goals.
And
that's what got me a scholarship to go play at the university. First, I went to the University of Alabama A&M on a full scholarship there. I played there, and then I transferred to Georgia State and completed my studies there, which is a Division I school, both Division I school here in America.
It's funny you say that, because when I was back home, I played in the back. I was a defender, 100%. So when I came to the U.S., I played for my school in Kentucky, Division III. Were not that good. I played for them. So there was this time where I asked something happened. Those guys that were in the back, they were just messing things up. So I asked the coach, let me go back there for us to kind of do the England and Argentina style, right? Defend.
Right.
Yeah, and man look at me and say, "Are you crazy? What you want to go back there for? You can't play in the D." And I started laughing at him. But that's what happens. I was surprised when I came and saw that you're playing, in fact, instead of goalkeeping. I was a little surprised there. But
yeah, I mean, that's just one of those things where in life you gotta be flexible, brother. I didn't realize I was a good striker and winger until I started playing here. I was faster, bigger, and that's what got me recruited in college. When I went to Alabama A&M, I was very fortunate at that time. I was playing with, the U23 Gambian national team players. One of my teammates ended up becoming the captain of Uganda. They play Eugene Sapuya, if you look him up. A bunch of guys that I ended up playing with in college. And it was nice, man. It was nice to have that chapter of my life, because that's what gave me an opportunity to get educated. I think when I came to America, my mindset was use the tools that I have, that I've been given through the hardship, to educate myself. Education became the most important thing, because for the first time, we had all these resources. You want to go to school, you don't got to pay for it. You can get student loan. You got to pay for a little in life, but and I took full advantage of that, and I want to play pro, but hey, I'm happy where I ended up at.
I never even thought about it. When I got here, man, I got my stuff. I was ready to go hustle. But you know, we have a sports show on this platform. We are starting when I know you're a Chelsea fan. I'm not going to go there, but when the EPL when it starts, we tested it right. This is going to work out, and we brought a lot of guys here, and it was great. It was one of our best shows, man. People were talking about the game. It was right before the final, so we would love to have you on there. I mean, I know now that I think about it, a lot of Chelsea fans.
Yeah, I mean that's the best club in the world. I mean, you have to. And you know how I became a Chelsea fan, right?
Drogba. Tell me Drogba. Everyone you guys know
no, it's not Drogba. It's not Drogba.
All right.
If you know, our former president, my name played for Chelsea.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
That's how I became a Chelsea fan. I was fortunate to play with him too.
Okay.
When he came, he hosted a tournament here, All-Star, and I represented the Atlanta team, and we ended up playing against them in the final. We lost 2-1. And that's how I got to know him. And when I think at the time he was playing for Chelsea. So that's how I became a Chelsea fan. Okay. And then when he retired, then Didier Drogba came to Chelsea. You know, that connection from Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
You know, Obi Mikel, Solomon, Kalou, all those guys, Michael Essien. So for me, it's always anything West Africa. That's why I tend to, put my support to. And that's how I became a Chelsea fan. And
I became a Chelsea fan in 1999. Not Chelsea. No.
Manchester United.
Yeah, Man U fan. In 1999, when I forgot the game. That was a game they were playing. They were down 2-0, and it came from the back. And I think it was Champions League final or something big. And I saw that perseverance. That's how I became a Man U fan, and I've been a Man U fan then. So we look forward to having you on here on that sports portion. It will be on Saturdays. Hopefully on the weekends, and we just come. It'll be about an hour before the game or after. I think it'll be a good thing to have you on here with the sports knowledge. It's going to be a really good one. Yeah, but straight to our topic here. People tend to see the finishing touches, or I call it finishing touches. To see Dr. Glay today, a successful young Liberian who did all that stuff, and he's where he at today. But folks don't see where Dr. Glay came from. Most people won't know that. And I want us to inspire young people who are following. I want us to talk about it. That's what you do for the most part. You touch on your upbringing a little bit there, but I want you to kind of lay it out because we are going to the book, right?
Yeah.
Before we get there, I want you to talk a little bit about your background, your upbringing, how you got to Atlanta before we got Dr. Glay that we have today.
Yeah, my upbringing and my background for the young kids, even yourself, many of us share the same story, right? Mm-hmm. Which is from 1989, when the war started, we all were in the war, we grew up in that environment, and it was unfortunate at the time. I was a 7-year-old kid, living a normal life in Bangat and going to Monrovia for the summer. And then all of a sudden you have to, walk and survive, and running away from Dudu ball, dropping bombs and taking cover, right? Walking from Bangat to Zowinta or to Ethiopia, like miles and miles and miles and miles, and eating, Bogawi, whatever you can find. That's how I grew up as a child, 7 years old, and then end up going to the Ivory Coast, where when you get to the Ivory Coast, you gotta make sure you check in on all that stuff, and you get the United Nations food, your 1 bag of rice, your can of beans, and your red oil, and your Bogawi that have a bunch of bugs and all that crap in it that we used to eat because we were hungry, right? And that was our life, and we had each other there, and we went, we played football. We went to our makeshift school in Dujad and Mercy and all those places, right? But I was fortunate to come to the States through the resettlement program in 1997. And when you're in refugee camp, right, and you leave, and you think, oh, America, that's it. Remember how we used to sit there when people come to America, like, because when you outside, they can show you all the beautiful things. Los Angeles, but they don't really show you the hardship that's in this country.
Not at all.
Well, we came to Stone Mountain, Georgia, here, which is what in Atlanta. And life wasn't easy. We live on government assistance. Here for the longest, my mother worked 3 jobs, and me and all my siblings, I think it was 8 of us, were in 1-bedroom apartment. Imagine eight kids. You know, she worked 3 jobs, and I'm over there taking care of my siblings, going to school, and while trying to play football. So that's how I grew up. Nothing was given to me in this country. I was fortunate to come here and take advantage of these resources, but life was hard. We're living off of food stamps, right? Here for the longest, and I went to college. Even when I went to college on football scholarship, and I graduated college with a degree in finance from Georgia State University. For 3 years, I couldn't find a job. I was parking cars in the street of Atlanta. You know, that's what I was doing. You know,
with a finance degree from Georgia State.
Yeah, which is one of the top business schools in the U.S. I was parking cars.
Yeah.
You know, I was parking cars in the streets for 3 years. 3 years. Imagine, right? Wow. Just to make ends meet. And that was kind of it for me. And eventually I realized I needed to become something, because that wasn't the end of it. You know, a lot of people feel like when you get education, that's it. Then the job will come flowing. But a lot of it depending on you, depending on who you know, your network, and how you can associate yourself, and how hungry you are. And believe it or not, how I got into what I do today as marketing, I literally went online on Amazon at the time and bought a book in marketing. And I read the book. That time, internet marketing or digital marketing was coming up, Google ads, social media, all that stuff. And I read a book on how to advertise on that. And I applied for a job, and fortunately I got the job. But it took me 3 to 4 years for that to happen. And I had to read a book that I, on my own, and go interview to say I knew how to do this thing. But I had to do the work. No one gave me the job, right? And once I got in there, it was, okay, now I have this opportunity. I want to become something of myself. And the rest is history. I just worked my butt off and to make sure that, you know, I'm the best in the room, no matter where I was. And, you know, in America, there's a lot of institutional racism that happens here. As a Black man in America, you know, I don't care how educated you are, how much experience you are, people are always going to doubt you. You got to work 3, 4, 5 times harder to keep to stay ahead. And those are the things that I'm always working. I'm always working to elevate myself. And, you know, so I try to tell people it's not what you know, from a education standpoint. It's like you have to put in the work and you have to be proactive, because there's a lot of information out there. And if you're not ready, you're not putting in the work, no one's going to hand it over to you. So
what year you got your undergrad?
So I graduated Georgia State University in 2006. That's when I got my undergrad degree in 2006. And then it took me 3 years for me to get my corporate job and then work through that. And then I went back and got my master's in 2015. And then I got my doctorate from Georgia State in 2019. 2019,
yeah. And the reason I asked about when you got your undergrad was the 2008. You know what the economy? What happened there?
Crash. Yeah.
I graduated 2008 as well. As we all know, the economy went down south, and I headed straight to the warehouse. That's where I did my little thing before finding my way out. So most people don't think about it. They don't know that you have, like you said, you have to go for it. You have to work hard, and you have to believe in yourself that I can do it. But if you are content with what you have, it makes it harder for you to grow career wise or anything. So that's I like the way you said it. Most people who are listening to us tonight, our age, will relate to our story. And most Liberians who were born during the time we were born have similar story, if not even more. But you have to work, and you have to be able to put in the sacrifice to be able to get there. So that leads me to the book, right? Liberian Boy. I like that. First, I want to know why I know you are one of those just like me, proud of our heritage, proud of who we are, wherever we go. Even I follow your videos, your speeches, top events. You're still pushing the Liberian boy. When you write your article on LinkedIn, you're still referencing that. Before we go into the details of the book, that why Liberian boy, the why you picked that name?
I mean, it's who I am, man.
Yeah, right.
That's I am proud to be a Liberian because everything I am, which is my grit, my resilience, my fortitude and commitment to anything I do stems from being a Liberian and everything that I've gone through. And I also realized that, and I've seen this with a lot of not just Liberian, West African in general, some immigrant. When you come to a new country, there's this battle of, do I give up everything that I've known and who I am to conform to the society because that's how they accept you, right? I'm an American. When you speak, they are like, oh, your accent is too strong, or whatever it is, right? And they never believe in you. So for me, I wanted to be very authentic in who I am and be proud of that, to show that a Liberian boy is what he is today, that the next generation of Liberians, when they can see me, whatever height that God bestowed upon me and the level that I get at, that they said, that's another Liberian person. I want to be like them. So for me, it's very important for me to, carry that with me everywhere I go. And that was one thing I wanted my book to carry through, is like Liberian boy. And then, the triumph over war shadow is, it speaks for itself. Because I want to show the positive side of Liberia. It's not just the negative, right? There are Liberians who are educated. There are like yourself. There are Liberians who are doing really good things back home. And I wanted to personify everything that I am and to be an example of that kid who may be sitting down in West Point, right?
Right.
On social media, and they can say, wow, one day I'm going to do that, right? Because oftentimes people glorify athletes and entertaining and all that stuff, and those are really the 1% or maybe at best 5% of people who would become successful from entertainment or sports. But you have 95% of people who is attainable: education, hard work, dedication. Right. And those people are not being glorified. So all of that is one of the reasons why I chose, that as something that I modified.
And what inspired you? I know this may sound rhetorical, but for the sake of our audience, what inspired you to write the book?
When I came to this country, right, I just put my head down and just work, man. I just work, go to school, become something. That was man, and I want you to do
Doctor,
they want you to be lawyer, they want you all that stuff, right? And as the man, they always want you to become something.
Yeah.
And as I elevated my career in corporate, every setting that I got in, because I said this recently in my Lama speech, right?
Right.
When you go in a room that's not Liberian, no one asks you where you're from and what you've been through. Everyone understands.
Right.
Right. But when you go in a non-Liberian room, in an American room, they ask you where you're from, where you've been through. So when you start telling them about your story as a refugee and all that stuff, everyone's mind is blown. They're like, whoa,
yeah,
I've never met a refugee before. Or they might say, oh, you speak so well, which is an insult, by the way, right?
Yeah.
And all that other nonsense. So for over 10 years in this country, everyone that I tell my story to, they always say, you got to write this down. Because a lot of people need to hear it. And I always push it aside and say, no, you know what? No one wants to understand. No one wants to hear that. That's my story. That's boring. But the moment that made me decide that, and I had a friend, may her soul rest in peace. Her name was Erica Hawthorne, an American woman that I met.
Is the lady you went with to Liberia?
Yes, I took her. She's the only American person that I've taken to Liberia. I took her all the way to my father's village in Ethiopia, right? One, she was the driving force behind me putting this thing on paper. She helped me write. She helped me, edit and the storyline, make sure that it makes sense. So I give all credit to her, and for motivating me. But the moment that made me decide I wanted to write this book was when I was getting, I applied to Georgia State to get my doctorate. Now, this is, at the time, this was the #1 doctorate school in the U.S.
Okay.
Non-traditional PhD, meaning you got to quit your job and go to school, right? You can be a professional and do that. It was the #1 in the States. They only accept 20 students a year, 20 out of maybe 300 applicants, only 20 globally, right? So I applied. Funny story was, how I even applied to that, it was the day that I was graduating on my MBA. And then when I looked in front of me, I saw nothing but Black PhDs.
Right.
And as you know, there's only maybe 5% of people in the world have a terminal degree.
I heard 1%.
No, it's 3. I think it's 3 or 5%, but it's no greater than 5%, right? Have a PhD, right? Globally, PhD or doctorate. There's only 5% total, white, Black, across the world. Black people are less than 1%.
Okay, I think that's where I got the 1% mark.
Yeah, less than 1%. So I'm graduating, I see all these Black PhDs, and I was like, wow, I was fascinated. This was, when I was getting my master's degree. And then I said, I want to do that. In that moment, I said, I want to do that. So that's when I decided I wanted to apply for my doctorate at Georgia State. Long story short, I got accepted into the program. I don't know how I got accepted, right? But these people did a lot of research on my background as a Liberian refugee and all that stuff. Maybe that contributed to wow, this guy has a lot of grit and resilience, because in order for you to get a doctorate, a PhD is one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my entire life. Right. I would never do it again, right? It's like one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And in order for you to go through that, you have to be like very, very motivated and committed. Long story short, got accepted. First day of residency school, they asked everyone to introduce themselves and talk about who you are, your background, all that. Create a presentation, and I created a presentation. And then I remember the administrator kept saying, "No, I don't want that. There's more. I need you to tell the people who you are." And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Because I do the usual. My name is Alvin Glay. I work here. I do this and that.
The script was there. Like, no, I
yeah,
don't
so he wanted the real story about my refugee life, my high school, and all those things, because he knew that, but I didn't know he knew it, right? So eventually I was like, okay, let me just tell these people who I am, which I did. And I remember everyone's jaw just fell to the floor in that moment. And again, they said, you should write this down. So that was the confirmation for me to, put my story on paper. And it wasn't because I wanted to tell people, how resilient I am, but I want to tell the Liberian story about how we as a people, how resilient we are. And then 2, educate people in Liberia. A lot of people don't know what Liberia, they don't even know the history. Right. Yeah. So I wanted to tell that. And I remember my friend Erica, she would say, hey, wait till you get your PhD. When you're done, then it will complete the story. And that entire process took about 10 years for me to get the guts to write it down. And that's what you see on that paper.
Yeah, thank you. The story, I think I've told you this before. It was somewhere in Indiana, one of those events, and a buddy of mine who happens to be a board member of BKS Foundation, he said, you guys have the same story. And then he told me, Toby, I think you remember that guy.
Yeah.
He said, never invite me and Alvin to give a speech at any of your event. I think you and your friend have unique story that represents everyone here. So calling us here to talk about anything, it just distances the fact from there. But I think it's something that is very inspiring. For me personally, there were some times, especially in Ivory Coast, where I felt like giving up, right? Some of the difficult times, you just feel like, man, I think this is it. What else? You look, no progress. You're just situated there other than going to school, playing football. It just felt nothing, no good school there and nothing, right? So I felt like there was a time, there were several times in my life when we were there that I felt like giving up. Now, you talk about in your book, you talk about some Liberia surviving some of the darkest time in Liberia history, which happens to be the Civil War and all the difficulties and experiences that you had. Was there a moment, even when you were writing the book, other than everything you've explained, that you felt the same way where you wanted to, like, man, you know what, forget it, and gave up, be it in Liberia or maybe in the US here when you got a Georgia State of a finance degree and doing valet parking?
You know, my friend asked me this, Erica. She said, had it not been for this war, would you be the same person that you are today? And no one really asked me that question, right? And I sat with that for a moment, and I told her, I said, no. I said, I would be the same person because me as an individual, giving up is never an option.
Right.
It has never been an option for me. I don't recall not one moment in the Ivory Coast that I felt like giving up. Obviously, I was a little younger, right? Because we were there
Right.
from like 10
Right.
to like 14, 15 years old.
Mhm.
It was just waking up and surviving every day, right? Every day. I think for me, it was all about how can you make it through the day. I talk about in my book, there's beauty on the other side of pain.
Right.
You probably see me. I post that a lot on social media, and I talk about this beauty on the other side of pain. And even the prologue in the book, I said when people see you in the present, they don't know what you've been through.
Right.
They don't know the story that you've been through, the hustle and the pain. But when you're going through some of those darkest times, it's easy for you to give up. But knowing that if you stay committed and just to get through those moments, you might be surprised on what you can achieve. So for me, I don't think it's ever been a moment that I want to give up. I think the closest that it came when I was going through my doctorate. I was working full time. I had a family at home. I was taking care of full time, 2 kids. At the time, my wife wasn't working. Everything was on me. So going to school full time and getting a PhD is one of the most difficult things. And I remember I came back home one day, my head just pounding. It's like, can I even do this? And what I'm telling you, the difficulty here is that we had 20 people that started the program, only 9 graduated.
Yeah.
That's really the average graduation, like roughly, 20% to 25% graduation rate to finish this thing, right? And I remember sitting, my head is just pounding. And I was like, I could just not go back tomorrow. I would say that's the closest it came. But then when I think about it, I'm like, okay, giving up is never an option for me.
Right.
And one of the tools that I always use to keep myself accountable, I tell everybody what I'm doing, because I'm one of those people. I don't want to say, oh, when you tell someone like you, Al, I say, oh, I'm going to school to get my PhD. And then next time you see me, yeah, my man, I think with 2 hours, I can't finish it. No, that thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to say, yeah, I mean, you started, you finish it. No, it will not happen. Right. So I use that as a motivation to keep me going. That's one of my little tactics is like, I got to tell people this is what I'm doing. And then I always have to remember it. I cannot stop. And it has to be something bigger than you. So giving up is easy. But I think the tool is when you remember there's something bigger than you, then it keep you going. But I don't think for me personally, there's been a moment where I say, yeah, I just want to quit.
Yeah. I tell people, when I used to do my little hustle in the warehouse, 2008, 2008, 2009, I used to go in, they call it a graveyard shift. You go in at 4 p.m. and you get up at like 1 a.m. and then you go. So every time I walk in, I'm smiling and this guy called me one day and said, but man, I've never seen anyone who just smiles. Who smiles at 12 a.m. while they're working, right? And I started laughing at him, and I told him, I said, the reason I smile is because, where I came from, the opportunities that I have here, and all that stuff. So there's a reason behind my smile. So my question for you now is, I think, and then correct me if I'm wrong. I think Danane. Let's forget about Liberia for a minute. You and I know about Dusty Danane. Yeah. Would you say Danane added to increasing our level of resilience in life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because when you think about it, what we went through there, walking, and time came you will be moving water from here, and I used to see you around the house there, not the older drawing water, as they can say over there.
Yeah,
So
in Yingling over there.
yeah, Yangle over there, and the people that do that, they be laughing. Oh, I don't want it, but I feel like Danade helped us tremendously. The experience there, it put us in a place where it gave us a really huge level of resilience. Would you attribute a little bit of that to Ivory Coast as well? I know Liberia, yeah, I see it, but because we spent a lot of time in Ivory Coast in someone else's country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't even a lot, right? The funny thing is, I spent, a lot more time, equal amount of time in Ivory Coast as I did in Liberia, right?
Right.
So for me is you grew up in Danane, right?
Mhm.
And you wake up in the morning gapping. For the people
Yeah.
that don't know what gapping means, you're hungry, no food to the left, to the right, right?
Right.
And you have no choice but to be happy. To think about, I need to survive in this moment, right? So for me, a lot of what I have today, as far as resilience and commitment, definitely stems from our time in the Ivory Coast, right? Because some of the things that I think about today, even in America, right?
Mhm.
If something is going wrong for me and I feel like it's the worst, I always think about somebody else has it worse than me in this moment. And that little shift instantly changed my mind. And it makes me like feel happy and grateful. So to your question about does our time in the Ivory Coast in Danane, does that give me sort of, the bedrock of who I am today, my resilience and everything? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what we went through in that place, it was tough. You live in somebody's land. If people don't want you there, John Mary, then always on your tail.
Beating us all day out of the
Right?
place.
You get food to eat. The only food you have to eat comes from United Nations, which is burger wheat, beans with bugs and rotting stuff. Then inside, when you're eating the burger wheat, you're taking the bugs in from inside. You're eating it. So now you eat it, you're taking it from inside.
Speaking of burger wheat, I know if we eat burger wheat that I read now, I don't know what's going to happen to it. I think.
I mean, people are going to call it couscous here. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Right? That one can million and say they can eat it for them to lose weight in America. Right? But so for me, it's going back. I always remember those hard times. I always remember those hard times. Even when I was in Liberia, walking from the village, crossing the St. John River during the rainy season, we used to sell snails on our head and me and my sister were in a cool. We used to be scratching people fun, right? So we can get small money and so we can eat. And I was just 7, 8, 9 years old. That's what I used to do. At the same time, you got to watch out for doodle ball and coming in. So all of those things play a factor in who I am today and how I see life. So absolutely.
Thank you. Welcome to the show, Mr. Host. You're late. We doing our thing here. We are wrapping up. The man's in Rwanda. He fell asleep. So
welcome.
The man fell asleep. But he's the one. All the research, all the reading of the book that I was supposed to do the interview, and he fell asleep. But folks who are go ahead.
We went out of power. We just returning. So I was trying to create a link. When I searched now, I saw that it was live. I said, okay, just have to join. But it's great to have you on here this evening, Dr. Alvin.
Thank you.
I don't know if I should say Alvin Square here tonight. So see you.
Yeah, it's A Square for sure.
Oh, the man, I see you missed the part. You see the picture?
Oh wow.
That when we were young, we used to be in the gym at that time. We're playing football.
So we took this picture a long time, years and years ago. So we were flying in Atlanta. over there. But welcome to the show. I know you learned a lot about Alvin. I was about to ask him about his book. We've actually been talking about the book there. So if you have questions, I will allow you to ask. If not, then we can continue.
I have a lot of questions. I line up a lot from my end, but then joining late, I don't know where you
Yeah,
guys started.
when you enter the chat late, you can't raise.
No,
raise-
I think we go on. You guys have this block me to 5:30, so I have time.
Yeah, the 30 minutes. So go ahead and ask. If it's question that you already answered, we'll stop it.
Let's start with the inspiration. What inspired you to write Liberian Ball?
We've been passing there. You late. But let me ask this question. So we are in the book. We are in the book now. So
Yeah, I saw you guys went to the Cote d'Ivoire issue there. So let me just chip in a little bit. Your story spans from Liberia to Cote d'Ivoire and the United States too as well. How did each country shape who you are today, Dr. Alvin Glay? Let's start firstly from Liberia. How did Liberia shape you? Because I just heard you saying that, oh, I spent as much time in Ivory Coast as I spent in Liberia. But tell us, how did Liberia shape you? How did Ivory Coast shape you? I know at that time when you went to Ivory Coast, you were doing a war, but give us the story and moving to the US too as well.
Yeah, no, I talk a little bit about that. That's a great question. I think for me in Liberia is the foundation of who I am as a person. You know, every individual, you have to have some form of cultural bedrock, right? That's your morals and value, everything you are. I am a proud monument. You know, my parents from Nima County, everything, even when we were in the Ivory Coast, our Liberianness didn't leave us. Right. So being in Liberia and the resilience, so the challenges in Liberia and the challenge that I experienced in Ivory Coast and America was different. And I'll talk about it in the book. Right. In Liberia was I'm a regular child. The war broke out. Now my childhood is no longer existent. I have to become a man. And what that means is I got to help my family fetch food, right? We got to walk for survival. So the ability to adapt and grow up quickly as an individual from a kid in Liberia was tremendous. But then in the Ivory Coast, it was a different sort of environment. In Liberia, we're fearful of dying from doodoo ball, from hunger, from the war, the soldier themselves. Mm-hmm. Those are the things we're worried about, right? You don't want to get caught on the wrong side, because if you don't speak your language, then that won't be finished for you, right? So you got to worry about that one. And then you got to worry about the plane dropping bomb, right? All those things. And then hunger. That's the thing I had to worry about in Liberia. In the Ivory Coast was mostly hunger. We don't have a land, hunger and health. You can die from sickness, right? Yeah. We don't have a land. We don't belong anywhere. The people just, they didn't want us there. So how do you adapt in that environment? So I think that helped build resilience for us. So in Liberia, I was worried about dying from gun, spleen, hunger. In Ivory Coast, it's just survival, right? So, and not giving up. We were talking about this earlier. So for me, that was the foundation of everything that I achieved thus far. And then when I came to America, the challenge was a little different, which is you have nothing. It was kind of similar in Ivory Coast. We didn't have anything. It's a new land. How do you integrate? At least they have in letter to really integrate. But here you kind of could integrate, but you still don't have anything. You have to rebuild yourself. So I built on some of what I learned in the Ivory Coast in America. But except America, I had access to resources. I can go to school. If I go to school, I don't have to have money to go to school. I can get student loan. The government can pay for it. When I graduate, then I can work on paying that money back, right? So, and then I learned football in the Ivory Coast. That's what we played because we have time. We didn't have anything. All we had was time.
Football,
right? And football is what took me to a school in America to get an education. And I use that to my advantage. So the hard work that I built in the Ivory Coast is what served me well in America. Is go to school, play football, put my head down, and I'll say that's how each country has sort of allowed me that I've learned. And the most important thing that I've been able to pick up from all of those things, and I think it served me very well in America, is the ability to adapt, to fit in spaces that I didn't belong, but I was able to adapt and take advantage of that to become the best version of myself.
Thank you. Now I've gotten into the conversation now, so I know you're in the CEO. We're having a lot of conversation here.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, we discussing a book here tonight. Let's say this memoir was something that should be adopted into a film for people to watch. Which one of the scenes within the book that you think should be mostly captured for educational purpose?
Oh, wow. So I've done a lot of interviews, and I think this is probably one of the most interesting questions that I've been asked. There's a lot of film about the war in Liberia.
Mhm.
There's a lot of film that showcase that. But I don't think a lot of people are truly shown the journey in the refugee camp and what some of the people had to go through. So for me, I feel like that's where I'll start, and then go back into the war, and then come into present day and sort of keep going back. So there is a point, and then there's a background, for that point. And the reason for that is I want people to understand when you have to make the difficult decision to leave everything that you've built, every single thing that you've built, you work your entire life, to go somewhere else because you have no choice. It's one of the most difficult decisions that you ever have to make, and how you overcome that. To me, I think it's the story of a lot of Liberians, and I want the world to see that.
Thank you. You know, just as you said, a lot still remain uncovered. So this will lead me to my next question. What do you think Liberia have learned since the war, and what do you also think that Liberia still need to learn after the war?
Oof. What a Liberian have learned. The interesting thing is, it's almost like a change of guards is happening, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
A lot of the people who went through the war are either people in government position today, or they're in the diaspora. And there's sort of this divide that's happening between the folks who stayed and back home, and the people in the diaspora. The young generation, all that stuff, they don't know anything about what has transpired. So I'm not so certain that we as individuals who've gone through all of these challenges, that we've learned how do we push this country forward, which for me, that's the most unfortunate thing. I think there's still a divide in the community in terms of togetherness and patriotism, and how we build a one Liberia. Recently I gave a speech, and I think you played earlier, and I was talking to the Association of Liberian Community people here, and I said, if you look at the Philippines,
Mhm.
right, they had a civil war, and it took a leader that says, I want to bring all our people together, and we're going to be we're going to leapfrog, and get this country back. For every year of civil war, it took a country back 7 years. We have 14 years. For every 1 year of war, it took a country back 7, and we have 14. So that means we're behind over 100 years, right?
Right.
So, but the same thing happened to the Philippines. Now they're one of the thriving economy in the world today. But it took a leader and everybody together. Rwanda, we don't have to go too far. Where you are, same thing, right? They have one of the most deadly genocide that happened in their country. So I think Liberians, we have a lot to learn. I don't think, in that capacity, togetherness and sort of unity is something that's missing. What I do know, though, and I feel this in my heart, I don't think we want to go back to that level of war. I don't think the level of suffering that people saw, I don't think we Liberian want. So that's the number one thing we've learned. And I think it's evident that we've had successful transition of government versus in years past, where it only happened with a coup or someone is in office for 50, however many years. So that's the most important lesson we've learned, that we don't want to go back to that. And I'm very prideful of that we had a successful transition from Ellen to Wea, to Boaca, and whoever knows what's going to happen. So to me, that's the most important thing. The next thing is, how do we unify all of our resources, all of the knowledge we've learned across the world, bring it together and build a better Liberia? And I think that's to be seen.
Great. I don't know whether this question has been asked, but this would have been my very first question to ask to you.
If it's a question that has been asked, you have to pay fine with it, man. Even before you ask the question, there's something about these Chelsea fans that when they meet, they just it's just different. The men at Chelsea, man, the other men at Chelsea, man. I'm the only man.
No, we ain't talking about football, man. Manchester United will have a very horrible season, so that is a fact.
Yeah, but Jim, go ahead. I was just joking.
Good. So, writing a book is something very difficult, especially when it comes to personal story writing. Can you tell the public, how was this journey like for you? Which chapter was the most emotional chapter for you to write, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. I think the number one thing is sometimes you just got to write it down. Number two, you got to have someone who's your coach, who's right beside you, to be able to pull out those stories. And I was talking earlier, my dear friend who passed away right after we published the book, Erica, was the one that helped me. But to answer your question, what was the most emotional part of this book, and some parts that I wish I was able to put it in the book, was when I went back to the house that I grew up in Monrovia, right there in Red Light, in Painesville area, by Red Light. And then I went to my father's village. That very same road from Banga to my father's village, that's the road that we used to walk during the war. Just being there, a lot of things happened to me when I left Liberia. I came to America. I just blocked everything out. I couldn't remember anything anymore. And my friend will always tell me that's a trauma response, because it's like everything would just blur. But I remember driving, going to Banga, walking to my father's village, and it's like all the memories just started coming, right? Just started coming. And to me, that was so. And I even have a picture of that in the book where I was walking in my father's village and in the house that I grew up in. So I would say that was the most emotional part. The book has a couple of other elements to it, but as it pertains to that, I think that was the most emotional for me.
After reading the book, myself and many readers may identify the feelings of displacement. So what message can you send to young refugees who are fleeing from their countries and seeking refuge in another country? What is your message to them as they go through the stage of displacement in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that earlier, right? My overarching theme is there's beauty on the other side of suffering. And basically what I'm trying to say is stay the course, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You just got to survive through that day, right? Survive today, survive today, survive today. Because if you don't, then you don't know what's ahead of you. And the second thing is, don't give up who you are as an individual or your cultural background just to conform to whatever environment you're in. We see this all the time. People come to America to lose the Liberian, everything about them, right? All the bad stuff in this country, they pick it up. Mm-hmm. And then you don't remember how far you've come. So the feeling of displacement is one of the most difficult things. But if you think about it, there's always a way. When you're committed, that way is going to happen. You just got to believe it. There's always a way. There's always a way. If you believe it, I promise you, it's going to happen.
I've been reading the book since the CEO told me about it for a few days now. And one thing that stood out to me was the much emphasis on how education changed your life. Can you tell us at what point in time did you believe in education as a displaced young Liberian living in Ivory Coast?
Yeah, I mean, I think education, African as a whole, is one of the things that our parents then preach to all. Educated mind is a rich mind because everything becomes a possibility.
Mhm.
If you're not educated, someone can take advantage of you, right? And it just gives you, it broadens your horizon. Like honestly, being educated gives you a preview to the rest of the world. You can
Mhm.
see things that no one have ever told you. So I've always believed in like acquiring as much knowledge as possible so that you can make decisions for yourself and your betterment. Education alone does not guarantee you success, but it broadens your horizon, your purview of how decisions should be made. Somebody else have done it before. I can do it too. You know, we talk about Singapore, we talk about, you know, the Rwanda, right? If you're not educated, you won't be able to read all those things and say, wow, they've done it before. Why can't I do it? Right? Or, you know, a college dropout in Mark Zuckerberg that started Facebook. Why can I not do it? You read about the students in Nigeria and in Ghana who are creating technology and they don't have access to anything. They're just reading books and they're creating software, right?
Mhm.
So to me, education empowers you to do all those things. And that's why I'm a huge advocate. I'll talk about education is the pathway out of poverty.
CEO, please bear with me. This will be my
So,
final question.
why you
Pretty
you
much.
you finishing the interview now? We just got a few more minutes with him here. So
Okay, great.
after that, we'll be closing out.
Your book tells a lot of stories from displacement to how education changed who you are today to shaping who you are and all of that. But there is a barrier within Liberia, and that barrier is reading. I believe that people focus more on fame, which is television, instead of reading. What step are you taking in order for the hidden secret, like you just said? People don't focus on the displacement, they just focus on what happened in Liberia, how places were looted, but they don't focus on how people were displaced. What are you doing, Dr. Alvin Glay, to see how best that this story can turn into a film or a movie that people will watch and say, yes, a Liberian boy from Bon County to Cote d'Ivoire, from Cote d'Ivoire to the USA. This is what can happen when you are determined.
All I can do is tell my story and amplify it. And I hope that one person would be able to see. I think this conversation is people hearing from me directly.
Right.
Um, is that if I can tell that story, then I can reach people who may not have the acumen to read, 150 pages and all the things that I'm saying there. One of the things I'm trying to work on is to turn the book into an audiobook where people can listen to it. And then eventually turn it into a documentary. Those are the things that I'm working on so that people can, hear my story and they can hear from my friends. They can hear from my mother. They can hear from my siblings and they can talk about all these different perspectives. Those are all the things that I'm working on. Some of the things that, I've been fortunate to go back home and try to, help bridge that gap. There was a kid that, through my brother passing that we sent to school and he graduated with a degree in economics, right? Because he wants to empower himself and pay for his entire college tuition from beginning to the end, right? But at the end of the day, though, a lot of it is dependent on you as an individual. What I've realized, and I have to be careful, I don't want to generalize here. What I've seen, some of the young people in Liberia choose the easy path, right? Meaning they want people to give them things versus doing the work to say, okay, I've reached this level, I'm stuck. Help me understand how I can move to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. Because all the information we need nowadays to be educated is available on the internet.
Right.
I was telling Al, the job that I have today, it's not the degree that I went to school for. I went on Amazon, bought a book, and I read it. And then I interviewed for a job saying that I knew everything about it from that book that I read. And that's how I got a job and I became good at it. But I took the initiative to go and educate myself and then try it. So knowing that the illiteracy rate in Liberia is so high, my goal is to continue to amplify my story through the form of this platform, audiobooks and creating documentary. That's what I'm going to be working on the next, 6 months here. And hopefully once that launch, I can come back here and share with you guys. But that's the only way that I know how.
Thank you very much for being on here tonight. Like the CEO said, we are closing now. I really appreciate your time. I'm captivated by all of you guys' story, from the CEO to yourself. And this is what we need. Where we're going now, it's very difficult for us to know what really happened in the past, especially those of us who were born after the war, like in the 2000s. We don't know anything about the war. Typical our grandparents will not sit with you a day to tell you what happened. They will not tell you, oh, the war came at this time, it came at this time. No. The history will not also teach you that. We have less or no documentary of what happened in Liberia. We have less or no book of what happens in Liberia. So people like you trying to explain your stories and what you went through will give us, the current generation and the next generation to come, to say, no, we cannot go through the same path. If we hear people discussing about this, let's try to desanctify the minds and let's not go to those kind of conversations. But it has been great. I hope and pray that you will venture into the documentary aspect, and hopefully that you can make it a movie so that all of us can be watching it and say, yes, there was a boy from Bon County, a Liberian boy. You already have it.
Nima Kante on both sides. I'm on the Bon County, Nima Kante side on my father's side, and then my mom's side is, inside Nima.
So mostly inside the book, I saw really Bon County inside.
That's where I was born. You're right. No, I was born in Banga. Yeah. Right? I was born in Banga. My father from Zowinta, which is in Bon County, but he's a Nima Kante man. Right? Okay. And my mother is from, Nima Kante. So yeah, you're not wrong.
Ain't know that town. That town guy is split.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, right. But before we let go of you, I had to put this on the screen here. This is the Liberian boys. So I'm not saying Liberian boy again, I was saying Liberian boys. You can see here with their leg on their feet.
I think this is what, 2017?
Yeah, 2017. It was taken 2017.
That's when I came to the gala.
Yeah, the big kids.
Yeah, wow. Look how young we are.
Yeah, man, we're still holding the ground, man. It has been great. Like I said to you earlier, I kept this. I've been saving this day for a long time, and this is not going to be your last time. I'm pretty sure. We'll host you there in the future when things comes up. We look forward to having you. If you have anything that comes up, you want to talk to the Liberian people. This platform is growing in Liberia as a whole. We are relay on various radio stations there. You can communicate that through us on our platform, either through writing, even promoting a book, or anything like that. We're happy to do that. And then with the sports thing, once we start, I will hit you up, and then we'll have a little group chat about it. So whenever you have time, you can pop in and give your contribution. But it has been great. It has been great hosting you. Before you leave, I just want you to talk to the people. What message you have for Liberians, man, both in the U.S., or let's say in the diaspora in Liberia. You can add that to your partner statement.
Yeah, no. First and foremost, thank you guys for having me on your platform. I don't take this lightly. I appreciate the authenticity. I appreciate you welcoming me. Those words that you just said means a lot to me. I try to be careful in my words, is that I don't want people to feel like I'm telling you do what I did, right? Because no two path is the same. Right. But what I can say is to the people back home, your current situation does not define your future. Whatever situation that you're in today does not define what you're going to become tomorrow. Look at me. I was a child in Liberia, running away from Dudubo, selling kerosene in Zowinta, in refugee camps. Here I am today, right? So I hope that you don't see the situation that you're in today, that is the final. Dream big, Dream big, because dream do happen if you're committed to it. And I think now with the world and all the exposure that we have, there's limitless amount of information that you can gather to figure out how to better yourself. And then the last thing I would say to the people back home too is that oftentimes we think about success, happiness is away from Liberia. But I ask you to rethink that. Liberia has one of the youngest population in the entire world. It has endless amount of resources, and it has endless amount of problems that needs to be fixed. You can be the solution of fixing those problems and create the future of Liberia. So your success and whatever it is doesn't have to be in America and in Europe or whatever it is, because you have what you need in that country. So don't only think about the possibility of being outside, think about the possibility of being back home.
Thank you. This has been a really great, wonderful conversation. No matter, we gotta respect the time now. So I don't want to. So I want you to come back the next time when I invite you. So yeah, Al invited me last time. He told me on an hour and 30 minutes. And the dude kept me there for 3 hours. So I don't want that to happen. But
yeah, no, I wish I could stay. We could have this conversation, but I have an engagement I have to go to. You know that 26th weekend. So there's a lot of event that's happening.
You playing?
Yeah, I'm playing Iron Bar tomorrow. Of course. I gotta play football now. I'm still playing. I'm playing Iron Bar tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. It has been great hosting you. We look forward to having you on here again in the future. In the near future.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. So it has been it was great. We had a wonderful interview there. He's a brother. We go way back. Way back. We were small in Ivory Coast. We played soccer together. We went to the same church. And then we came to the US. We continued our friendship. As you saw in the picture there, when we're young, when we came here, we still became friends. We still continue our friendship. He's someone that inspires a lot of people. And he's a successful Liberian man in the US, I have to say that. So it's a pleasure having him here. And the fact that you honor our invitation, I think is also a privilege for us to look forward to changing the narrative, right? Bringing people like him, John Yomi, folks from different background, bring them on the platform to change our conversation, not just one-sided topic all the time. But it has been great. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, I realized that you were having some issues, so I had to improvise to make the show happen.
Thank you, CEO, for also being on here.
When a man said Dudu Boy, heard about Dudu Boy. You know what Dudu Boy is?
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard the name. But in my term now, the time I used to hear Dudu Boy, the time UN was in San Nicolas, somewhere around 2009, 2010, when
they used to be the helicopter gunship. The men used to be.
Yeah.
People were. Yeah, but it has been great. We look forward to tomorrow. We'll be hosting Honorable Musa Hassan Bility. He's going to be our guest tomorrow, and then on Sunday we'll be having a special. We'll have a lot of folks that will be joining us to discuss some training issues.
Thank you so much for being on here this evening. See you. Thank you to join your main Franklin Tungo, Abraham Raw, Rob D. Wilson, the rest of the folks who are following up this evening via Facebook and YouTube. Want to say thank you for watching us. And those of you too who are also listening to us via the radio, want to say thank you for also being there too as well while we're here. It has been a wonderful conversation. And this is how I would like to come to the end of today's July 24th, 2026 edition of the Heat Tower Show here on BKS TV. I've been Junior Payne alongside the CEO himself, Arvin Sekai Sunian. And tonight we have with us Mr. Arvin Glay, who has been telling us history written in a memoir called The Liberian Boy. It's been a wonderful conversation. Catch you guys tomorrow.